If it's not playable live, we don't do it. I don't normally play lead guitar, but sometimes I have to when we play live.
Yeah, it's just learning new skills as you go along to fit the
I'm
song to fit what
47,
you
I
need.
can't really learn any new skills. I come out of the music scene totally. For many years, you can take the songs of what I think they are or what you think they are. You could be
Yeah.
looking at lyrics and thinking, actually, I've gone through this as well. Read along with the lyrics and make your own mind up. There's two tracks on the first album which were 11 years old, and there's one track on this album which is 13 years old now.
Wow.
13 years that me and Chris have been jamming it when we got together, and we thought we need to get it nailed and finished out of my head.
Are you a music artist looking to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, and basically every platform? Then you should check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution service. It's what I use to get my music out, and I find it really, really helpful. You can set up all the credits for your songs, put in lyrics and even like times lyrics and things like that, and manage all your releases from one account or one dashboard. It is super helpful, and I don't think I would have gotten started with music as early as I did without DistroKid. So if you're interested in any of their plans, which I'll put on the screen here, and yes, that does say $2 a month for music on all platforms that you need things like that. That's $2 a month. I know some of you spend more on coffee each day than $2 a month to get music wherever you want. But anyways, back to the point. If you use my link in the description, you will get 7% off of any of these plans to make it even cheaper. Plus, it has so many cool features to help with your music, like pre-save pages, getting it on Instagram and things like that so people can add your music to posts. It is just super, super helpful, and it's what I've used since starting music. Like I said, use the link in the description, check out DistroKid, and get 7% off of any plan you want. Now, back to the episode. His band, As the World Dies, are making a new breed of death metal, and their new album, Nebula, comes out March 21st. He's also a member of Memoriam. It's Scott Fairfax. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to
There you go.
talk about this band and this new album.
Cool, man. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, quite excited to do a few interviews and try and get this album out to the people. Uh, it's, it's come a long way. I think I started it 11 months ago. And yeah, we've done a hell of a lot. We've changed up from what we've done previously. We've become a bit more, how can I say, musical in a way, epic. But it's still death metal. It's got all sorts going on in it. So there's never a moment where it gets a bit dull or anything because there's always something going on.
Yeah, I mean, let's just start things off with that. This new album. I mean, I was trying to read about it, and everything I hear just makes me more excited for it. Like I read like dimension changing sonic assault. Like what can listeners kind of expect from this album in general, and also how is it different from like your last album?
What you can expect? Well, it's still death metal, as I've said. It's
Yeah,
mid-paced, old school death metal. But because I'm a big fan of 80s synth music, and like Genesis and stuff like that. So we thought, oh, let's try and incorporate that with death metal, which hasn't been done. I'm not saying we're going down a Genesis Phil Collins route or nothing, but that is a big influence on me. They used to layer things so they all become one instrument. So that's what we've achieved, I think. Yeah, it's something totally different from what I've done before, like with my other bands, like Memoriam, or when I did the Massacre stuff, or whatever band I'm in. I've never actually sat down and thought about, I want that to happen in this with keyboards going
yeah.
along with the guitars. I've still got death metal vocals, so yeah, it's cool stuff, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, you have this whole new like backing of Reaper Entertainment now for this album. Just tell me about like the process of signing with them and what you think they can kind of bring to the table for this new album.
We actually was talking with Reaper for the first album, but the
Hmm.
timing wasn't right for that. Because no, it's very hard to
Yeah.
sign a very unknown band. Because the other
Yeah,
members in the
definitely.
band they've not done albums before to this scale. Uh, So it's very hard for Reaper to take a gamble, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but they heard the first album. I think they was a bit shocked how good it was. So we had talks. We actually had a meeting in Germany, and me and Florrie had talks, and we got it together. And it's a total different thing than on the first record company. It's still more professional, and they
Yeah,
actually talk to you and you know have a few arguments now and again. I've got to admit, but that's all in. That's how it is.
yeah,
You can't have it all your own way, and they can't have all their own way. But yeah, it's great being on Reaper because I'm on Reaper with Memoriam as well. So it's just like a family thing going on now. So it's great.
yeah, yeah. And so in this process of like each side needing to make compromise, is it mostly still like your guys in creative control, or like how does that relationship work of like, yeah,
Oh,
I want to listen to Reaper, but it's our album.
no, we're totally in control.
Okay.
We handed them everything, the artwork we got our done ourselves because we've got a view. We had a view for the album, um, so they liked the idea, but they wanted to do a few subtle changes, which it helped, so that's good. But that's just on the vision of the album. Um, the music side of things, we total free control. So that was great. Yeah, it's just great working with them. They're really easy to get on with. They listen to your point of view on some things, and it's great.
Yeah, awesome. And so let's get into like with being part of Memoriam, like they're assigned to Reaper as well. When you release like this joint project, I Am the One and Endless Rain, it's like you got a song listed from both bands. How are these bands like the same or different? And just like how do they differ from each other?
Well, with Memoriam, that is a case of I write the 90% of the songs, and then everyone chucks their style into it, and it changes
Hmm.
the song sometimes. Like Frank won't follow the guitar; he has to do his own thing. But with As the World Dies, I've pretty much structured everything, which is a bit selfish of me, but I'm the one who's sitting here recording and doing all the tracks. Um, so it's total different beast. As the World Dies, when we get into a studio, like rehearsal studio, that's when we work out what each other's playing because you can't exactly play it like the album sometimes because can't have four guitarists.
Yeah.
But what I have done is scaled back. So if it's not playable live, we don't do it no more. That's one of the major differences from the first album.
Nice.
You know, um, there's keyboards and stuff which we are going to play live as well, but they're going to be on a backing track, which we don't really want a keyboard player in the band. Um, so yeah, so there is a big difference between the two. The other big difference is tuning because As the World Dies is tuned at drop A and Memoriam is drop B. So it don't seem like much, but when you're playing them different tunings, you just got a total different vibe about it.
Hmm. And with the whole process of like only adding things to the album that can be played live, what effect do you think that gives the music? Does it feel more natural, feel more authentic, or just like how does that change the music itself?
It gets you more involved, if anything, with the other people in the band. Um, in both bands, there's bits on albums where we haven't got enough hands to do it. But Memoriam is a completely different beast in the fact that we do what's right for the song, and As the World Dies, we're going to do what's right for the album as well. If you understand what I
Hmm.
mean, you can't
Yeah.
like the guitars. One of them will take the keyboard part sometimes at the moment. So it's doing something totally different from the album. But you've got to make the best if you can of an album as well. So it's a bit of a chop and change sometimes,
Yeah,
which
definitely.
is also interesting for us to play. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I don't normally play lead guitar, but sometimes I have to when we play live with both
Yeah,
bands as well. So
yeah, it's just learning new skills as you go along to fit the
I'm
song and fit what
47,
you
I
need.
can't really learn any new skills.
And so it seems like you have kind of the lead vision on As the World Dies and what it should be. I'm guessing you came up with that band name. Take me into the process of coming up with that name and what it means.
um, well, it was me and Chris McGraw, the drummer. We
Okay.
had a few names at the time, but this As the World Dies band in different forms has been around since about, I don't know, 2007 or something.
Oh
But
wow.
we've never
Okay.
had time to kickstart it, if you know what I mean. Because
Yeah.
I come out of the music scene totally for many. Oh, sorry, cat. For many years, and so did Chris. So and then when Memoriam started up again, uh, Chris wanted us to get started again. So it's like both bands are intermingled in a way, which is a good thing. But that name, I think, was the best name out of the bunch we had because we wanted to portray a story of a lone survivor
Mm.
on a desolate world, and
Yeah.
both albums are still following that same pattern. It's about being alone as well, and looking up to the sky for hope in a way. But sometimes you look up the sky and you don't see hope at all. You see something totally evil, which I think we will get into that a bit further into the interview.
Yeah. Yeah. So like with this storyline, I mean, let's get into it right now with this with this new album.
Yeah, go for it.
Take me into the storyline of Nebula.
Um, well, it starts out with a bit of a warning, which you can make your own mind up about what it's about. But there's a bit of a warning for the first track, which is a kind of an intro, um, and then through the actual album, it is following a lone survivor of some cataclysm or event, um, going into his mind, how what he's thinking. You know, it must be awful to go through that.
Hmm.
It's a bit like a film in a way. He's going mad. He's realizing what he's lost. There's all sorts of different storylines. So each song has got its own little story, which makes one big complete story. It's not a concept album, but it's just the way it went. The way it went, really.
Yeah.
I don't tell our vocalist Jay what to write about. I'll give him a bit of an inkling, or can tell him this one's a bit of a quicker song, or more complicated, so don't do as many words. But it's a natural thing. It's all happened naturally, which is,
Hmm.
mate. That I think that's the best way to do an album. Have it
Yeah.
natural.
I think that's the best process. It has the least amount of friction, it just kind of comes about. Hey heroes, sorry to interrupt that podcast episode, which I hope you are enjoying, but I wanted to tell you about my clothing line, Quest Clothing. Ever since I started really pursuing YouTube and music and all these creative things that I do, I've dreamed about starting this clothing line specifically. I had the name, I had the idea like for years before I started it, and now it's finally here. You can wear clothes like this. I have sweatshirts available, t-shirts, even clothing for like my music with cover arts and lyrics and things like that. It's all super, super cool. And right now is the best way for you guys to support me across everything I do. So be sure to check out the Quest Clothing web store with the link in the description and follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates about collections, discounts, things like that. Anyways, I don't want this self-sponsorship to take too long, so let's get back to the episode. With like this band name focused on kind of loneliness or like a soul survivor. All the both albums having this storyline. Do you see down the road, and like, is that theme gonna continue for all As the World Dies projects, or do you ever see it branching out to other things?
I don't know because we've done two albums of that now.
Hmm.
Um, it does become to a bit of an end with it. I won't give any clues away, but the last
Yeah,
track comes a bit of an end of that individual in a way. Um, so we are thinking of changing up again for the third album, which we've already kind of written half of it. Uh, a bit quicker, bit different, so it might be a different person. But that's the thing. You can take the songs of what I think they are, or what you think they are. You could be
yeah.
looking at lyrics and thinking, actually, I've gone through this as well. So it's a bit of a read along with the lyrics and make your own mind up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and any music, even ones that have a storyline from the band or the artist, listeners are going to attach their own meanings and stories to it and
Yeah.
everything, and that's part of the beauty of it. And so, for other bands, I mean, you mentioned that this band has been together a long time and just now like getting kickstarted. If there are other bands listening that's like trying to get their start or maybe even just trying to form a band, what tips or advice would you give to them?
The tips are don't forget about tracks that you've done.
Hmm.
If you want to get them out to the people, like there's two tracks on the first album which were 11 years old, and there's one track on this album which is 13 years old now.
Wow.
13 years that me and Chris we've been jamming it in, when we got together, and we thought, right, we need to get it nailed and out and finished out of my head and finished. So that is the second track on the album. Uh, 13 years old, but
So,
it
what's the
just
process of going back to these older songs and like, okay, maybe this one fits the album, these ones will let sit a little longer. Like, how do you zero in on like the older songs that you want to bring back for albums?
it's the ones that you get into a rehearsal space with the other members and you start jamming, and it's that song again. Oh, we've got to finish it. You know what I mean? It's that
Hmm.
riff that everyone likes playing, or oh, you know, yeah. I do that with all bands. I've got like hard drives of songs for various different bands, and at one point, they will come out. You know, I
Hmm.
started doing all this music stuff for myself. I never ever thought people would be into it, and they are. So that's great. Um, but there's plenty more to come, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. And so in terms of just balancing like your own time, how do you split time between As the World Dies and Memoriam?
Memoriam it's a machine. It really is a machine. Uh, when we've got gigs, we go in, have 3 hours of rehearsal, and we're ready for the gig. You know, as the world dies at the minute, we're still trying to work out what works live, what doesn't work live. So because they're different nature, the songs are, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so you've got to have the groove, but we want the epicness as well. So we've kind of got to work harder at that. It's not just loads of riffs and a drummer.
Yeah.
It's lots of epic soundscapes as well. So we're really working hard at that on at the minute. So
Hmm.
because
And so
it's
is
one thing to write an album, and there's another thing to try and do it justice live. So that's what we're
yeah.
working on at the minute.
And you can always put in like little like riffs or things like that live that is different from the recorded version. So it's like,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
learn the song, but then it's always going to be different live.
yeah. And we're also thinking about doing stuff that ain't even on an album anywhere.
Yeah.
Why have you got to play songs that are on album? Just play something absolutely new that no one's ever heard before. That's the excitement with this band. It's like we can do what we want. You know,
Hmm.
you haven't got to
That's
stick to
awesome.
that because we're not. I don't think we're going to be a touring band, as in like
Hmm.
in a coach or going around, for weeks on end. Because we all got
Yeah,
jobs and stuff, so we can do what we want live. You know.
that's awesome. Does that make it a bit more fun to play live versus like Memoriam, where it might be a bit more like serious, quote unquote.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And so just in terms of like live shows, Memoriam, As the World Dies, whatever, is there a show you've played that's like been your favorite so far or like really stuck in your mind?
There's been quite a few. Obviously, there's been more for Memoriam than I've done quite a few As the World Dies. We've done Bloodstock, which in the UK, big
Hmm.
festival. Both bands have done that. I think I've played that about 5 times now with different
Awesome.
bands. So, but that's like Bloodstock's always a great venue. That's in Derby in the UK. Um, yeah, but with Memoriam, sometimes the smaller shows are better than the big festival. You know,
Yeah.
um, because we played Wacken one year and it was all hungover. It's all always the one I'll remember. It was very hungover from the night before, hanging out with the Paradise Lost lads, and we had to go on quite early in the morning. Oh my god, that was hard work. It was like everything was going like 5 miles an hour. It's like, oh, my brain was hurting. that was, but it was still an experience. All these things are an experience. You got to enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, you gotta enjoy it and then learn from, learn from it going forward as
Yeah.
well. And so I'm curious actually for As the World Dies, like I mean, taking all these years to really get the album started, finding all these old songs, and has there been a moment that like you've ever like let As the World Dies fall to the wayside or like question if you actually want to start it?
No, it's one of them things. Me and Chris, the drummer, have been friends forever, so
Hmm.
we've always wanted to get something out there. But it just comes to when the time is right.
Yeah.
I've had, I had a lot of success with Memoriam.
Hmm.
So now's the time to do both bands and try and help each other because we've done gigs with Memoriam as well. So
Yeah.
I played twice in one night. We've done that a couple of times, and it was great fun. And it's different for me because as you said earlier, how do you differentiate from the two
Yeah.
bands? And in my head, it's quite easy to do that,
Hmm.
because in As the World Dies, we've got two guitarists, so I can I can swap and change what parts of the songs I want to play. But with Memoriam, it's just me, so I've got
Yeah.
to pretty much stick to what I've got to do. Um,
Yeah. I guess
yeah,
there's
so.
not as much worry with that to the world that's because of how freeform it is and how like fun and open-ended it can be.
Yeah, as we all do, it's a great band because we're all good friends. You know, Jay, the vocalist, is I think I've known him since I was 15. So, it's all about getting friends together, having a laugh, go and play some gigs, write some good music, and get it. Hopefully keep releasing it.
Yeah. Awesome. And so if there's someone listening to this who hasn't heard of you before, maybe knows you from Memoriam, but is now learning about As the World Dies, what song would you recommend as like a introduction to As the World Dies?
Well, on March the 21st, when it comes out, if
Yeah.
you listen to the song "Playing God," that's got every element in it that As the World Dies does, all in one song, you know. And that's a really good opener to listen to tell you about what we're doing. Yeah.
Awesome. And then in similar vein, is there like again, Memoriam or As the World Dies, is there a song you've been a part of that's just your favorite, like to listen to, or maybe it's something that went into it that you really like?
Well, there's loads. It's normally the ones that you think, okay, are people going to like that? And they do, they absolutely do love it. Like
Hmm.
Undefeated Memoriam, um, As the World Dies. Let me think. Until You Bled. That's one of my favourites to play live as well. But that's a great song off the first album. Uh, there's loads off the new one that I really enjoy playing live. So, people who are listening, I hope you enjoy it because I enjoy it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And for the latest song you have out now, Dark Oblivion, take us into just like the process of making that, or what gave you a sense that this was a good like single to release?
We actually left that up. This is what I said earlier, to Reaper, because you
Hmm.
get too close to an album and you get separate songs. So, you'll always pick your favorite. So we actually said you pick the two singles that you're going to release. So we
Hmm.
totally left that up to them because they're the record company. They know what people like, um, and yeah, totally their idea to release what
Yeah,
they release.
awesome.
So
And so is I Am the One the second single from that, or is there going to be another one before
no, there's going to be
Nebula?
another one which is out
Got
tomorrow
it.
actually,
Awesome.
uh, and that is Under the Dying Sky,
Hmm.
which is again a different bit of a different track, a bit more 6 feet under speed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The double bass, but again, a really epic song as well.
Hmm.
It's got all the elements in that one as well. So Under the Dying Sky is out tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, which is that's obviously out by the time this podcast
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
out. And I think,
That's out on February the 14th. Yeah.
yeah, and Nebula, if it's not out now, it's about to be out. So stay tuned, go follow As the World Dies everywhere, things like that. For a couple more like hypothetical questions to start wrapping things up with
Okay.
either of these bands, Memoriam, As the World Dies, if you could collaborate with any other artist or band, who would you want to work with?
Ooh, that's a good one. For me personally, would be Devin Townsend.
Hmm.
'Cause I love his everything, his guitar playing and his vocals, obviously. Uh, and the guys from Testament, funnily enough. I'd love to
Nice.
play, especially Gene Oglen,
Yeah.
another strappy, anything strappy young lad related, really. That's back in the '90s, that was, and the 2000s, that was my go-to band. And again, Napalm Death as well. And
Yeah.
try and get something going with Shane Embury at one point because he's only local. That'll be killer. He's a good lad. Um, yeah, there's loads of people,
Yeah.
but
Do you have a
not.
sense of like whether those would be better As the World Dies collaborations or Memoriam collaborations?
Uh, I'd be happy with both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not gonna pick and choose. Like obviously any opportunity is great. Yeah, and there's no pressure to have an answer. Also, I was just curious if you had like a sense of which one would fit better or make more sense. And
Yeah,
then
I think As the World Dies would be. 'Cause we've had a lot of guest appearances on the first album, so that it does work for guest appearances. Memoriam's a bit more. It's Carl and only Carl. You're not hearing anyone else on the vocals than Carl, so it would be actually have to be As the World Dies, if anything.
yeah. And so the other question I had was, I mean, you've had some live experience, festivals, like one-off venues. Do you have a bigger like bucket list of venues or festivals you want to play one day?
I've to be honest, I've done stuff that I'd never thought I would have done. The big
Yeah.
European festivals are brilliant. Totally everything like backstage and everything is it's just totally mad. If you're going into that and you've never done it before, it's crazy. It's good fun. It's tiring as well though. But bucket list, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Keep
That's the
playing.
bucket
Yeah.
list. Yeah, it's great. Um, and the lads in Azerwall Dies are all similar age to me, for 47-ish. But obviously the Memoriam lads are a bit older, uh, 60 odd now, some of them. So you know, in a way, this band hopefully keeps going and keeps going, and we get to the level that Memoriam were, and then I've got another 15 years of this, and I'll be
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, you can just keep cycling there and then you'll
Yeah,
be the 60-year-old that's happening.
exactly. And we'll have some younger guitarists taking over the things, and I'll be, I don't know, retired.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have to go soon. But thank you so much for coming on. I've learned so much about this band. I'm so excited for Nebula coming out March 21st. And so, yeah, thank you for giving me some of the time. If there's anything else other than the album that you want to shout out, feel free to do that now.
No, no, it's fucking absolutely wonderful to have an interview. Really good fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, just thank you to everyone watching, and I hope you grab the album, be it digital or physical, and I hope to see you on the road somewhere.
Yeah. All right. As the World Dies, Nebula, March 21st. I'll leave a link to that, some other things down below. Thank you, Scott, so much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks, mate.